I was just curious because I know you were a financial advisor and did a lot of that sort of stuff, and so I wondered what your take was on the Reddit GameStop stock boost that happened recently.
Well, it's very weird because, of course, hedge funds aren't necessarily hedge funds. They often have pension plans, but we hate the hedge fund managers so much that we're all sort of rooting. Even hedge fund managers are rooting to have other hedge fund managers take it on the chin. I think this is, there's a revolution afoot, and I've called it the N squared revolution because before recently it wasn't kinetic. There wasn't that much street violence. We had some street violence this last year. People are pissed, and people have every right to be pissed. And one of the things that's got me most pissed off is listening to the establishment say, oh my God, the little people have discovered the fact that they can do what the big people do, which is manipulate markets. And it's like, hell yes, they're not the little people. We should have repossessed the Hamptons in 2008. No, I seriously, I called for turning it into Clawback National Seashore. And we should have all of these beautiful homes so you could tour them just like you're in Rhode Island, in Newport. In essence, we've got a kleptocratic elite, which are not elite at all. We keep calling them elite, and I don't know why we bother to do that. We're ruining the word elite. We have elite surgeons and elite special forces. These people aren't elite. They're gonoffs. They're chores. They're thieves. And in a certain sense,
frauds, you said.
well, you have to appreciate that in part, as you know, I had a hedge fund myself. We were trying to do things honestly, but we didn't even know who our value sources were. At some level, you see a trading pattern and you go after it, and the theory of the market is that all you're doing is making things more efficient. But the predatory institutions, the really big hedge funds, the really large investment banks, have a terrible culture. They've financialized our world, forced us all to go through them, and they have an idea that they're allowed to manipulate the markets, and we're not. And so I admit I was sort of, running around the house in my underwear cheering for these guys, not even knowing whether that really made sense or whether it was a good idea, just because I'm so interested in having some of these people take it on the chin. Right now I'm having my moment with the Bitcoin community where they need people to be their antagonists. So I'm not a Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin critic the way they think I am, but their whole thing is like, Bitcoin doesn't need you. You need Bitcoin, and don't be a bullshitter. Show us your portfolio and all this kind of stuff.
Is Bitcoin going to be, or is it going to be the next one, or is it always going to be the second in line? Because it's always really good, at least in rock and roll, it's always good to be the second band.
Yeah. I think Bitcoin really has a special place because it's not trying to do more than what it is in a weird way. And my belief is that Bitcoin is really a play on the corruption of our institutional class. So you think about Janet Yellen versus Satoshi. Janet Yellen is yelling at Satoshi, and Satoshi, we don't even know who Satoshi is, right? Satoshi's just kicking Janet Yellen's ass, and that is exciting because what you have is this class of people who have a printing press. That's their major tool. They can change the law. They can prosecute you. They can print money, devalue the money that's already there. They can they can transfer wealth from person A to person B, claiming to be doing something like stimulus or relief. What the hell is relief or stimulus? It's transfers of wealth, right? Right. Bitcoin is basically a discipline. It is what I've called the relationship with the unforgiving. Bitcoin is like the honey badger. Bitcoin doesn't give a shit. And that indifference, that cold-hearted indifference, is in part what is empowering the Bitcoiners. And yes, they're completely out of control and they're ridiculous and they're like bad children. On the other hand, they understood something that was really important, which is the main selling point of Bitcoin is the utterly undependable nature of our institutional class, which is thoroughly corrupt. And the more corrupt they are, the more Bitcoin is going to go up.
Well, I can tell you this: my Bitcoin investment has finally paid off all the debts that I had incurred trying to learn technical trading, which I again stepped away from because I found it wasn't for me. But and I will still hold on to it because I do feel that it does have some sort of longevity, and
it could go way, way higher than it is now.
Especially once it runs out, right? Once it's just a finite.
Think about it. Think about it differently. Think about it as it's not, when you see the Bitcoin price, that's a two-sided thing. And the great value of it is you're short the dollar. And you know that these people don't know what they're doing at the Fed. The central bankers don't know what they're doing. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to print. And Bitcoin is in part valuable because it's not going to print. It's going to do what it's going to do on a regular schedule. And the confidence that you have that these people have one basic trick up their sleeve, which is seigniorage, the theft of, you're going to take money away from everyone who holds dollars and give it to whoever you give new dollars to just by running your printing press. And so that's sufficient to say that the Bitcoin price is really an exchange rate, and it's the fact that you're short the dollar that is animating BTC.
But there's no doubt that Elon's investment in Bitcoin, and I know, folks, this goes a little bit off the usually Fender and Gibson talk that we have weekly here, or rock and roll stories of tour buses, but it's more rock and roll and interesting to me just to talk about this with in a mind like Eric Weinstein. Elon's investment, to me, sort of leveraged his company so that his company wouldn't fail as well. Will there be other companies that do the same, which accept Bitcoin Pay?
Well, he's using mimesis. He's using mimetic desire. So the idea that we want to ape Elon, hey, Elon's got rockets. Rockets look like guitars. They're long and thin, right? And he put a convertible into space, with David Bowie playing in the background. Okay, so now the idea is we all want that kind of Elon cool, because really what we're trying to do is we want to make love to Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, So at some level, he's using that mimetic desire to do what Bitcoin is going to do anyway. In other words, but by virtue of the fact that this thing is short the incompetence of our aging institutional class, Elon is helping it along. But I don't think Elon is central, unless he's Satoshi. I don't think he's central to the story.